All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If we are all able to, can we please rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer? When we do our Moorish American prayer, we're on the cactus pose, 2 fingers to the right, 5 to the left, feet standing in a 90-degree angle, standing on our square. And please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam. I announce the meeting is now open. I rise and give the highest praise to the Most High. Father God Allah, honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality, so that we may learn to love instead of hate. Honors to our forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey, for preparing the way for our prophet. Honors to all the Adab sheiks and all faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish divine and national movement. Honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheik appointed to the by the prophet, Brother Emil. Honors to our Supreme Grand Sheik standing, Kinu Umar Bey. Honors to our Supreme Grand Sheik, Lloyd Douglas L. Honors to the current and Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple. Honors to the officers of Temple 30. Honors to the members of Temple 30. Honors to all Moorish Americans, and honors to all Muslims on the planet. Brother Secretary Jackson Bey, if you are able to, can you please read the divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam, brother chairman, I'd like to give all praise to Allah, honor to the Prophet Drew Ali, honor to the forefathers and foremothers, the honor to the Asiatic nations and the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All means are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slave holders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with full necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam is teaching love. That's no because
Islam, brother, and gratitude and happy holy day. Islam, Sister Lashea L, if you are able to, can you please read the additional laws for the Moorish Americans?
Islam, arise and give all praise to the great Father God Allah, give honors to the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali, give honors to Marcus Messiah Garvey, give honors to all Muslims on call and all Muslims around the world. Questionary and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1, Grand Sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all business. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any formal officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from its office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their EDEP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on the meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish uplifting funds, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is a lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I would have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we're to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform itself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his five senses who is able to do so, because after your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they're not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious, become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and mind pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Islam, happy holy day.
Islam and happy holy day. Grand Sheik, if you are able to, can you please read the divine warning by the prophet for the nations?
A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law, in the city hall, and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way.
Oh my, I'm pardoning it. Are we not able to hear the divine warning?
Islam, we can hear it.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure why you're not able to hear, brother. We're almost done with the divine warning. We're wrapping that up right now.
Of their forefathers, and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with the divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet.
Islam, Grand Sheikh, and gratitude. At this time, I would like to activate the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Circle 7, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God, Allah. the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest planes of life with his Father God Allah. Know thyself and Allah, the genealogy of Jesus, life and works of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa, in the land of Egypt. Noble Jew Ali, the prophet and founder of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, to redeem the people from their sinful ways. Islam, Islam, Islamism. We will be going into the measures of 45. And right before we go to 45, I would just like to demonstrate a few words from Don Miguel Ruiz, The Circle of Fire. And in this chapter, it's about gratitude. When we master gratitude, we can easily receive without feeling guilty because we know that by receiving, we give pleasure to the ones who is giving. For example, if someone cooks a meal for you, the best way to thank you for the gift is to really enjoy the food. Islam. I just wanted to share that measure just a little bit, just as far as gratitude before we go into 45, the divine origins of the Asiatic nation. Because what's drilled in with the prophet is that we need to learn to love instead of hate. And in order to learn to love instead of hate, we got to understand gratitude, Islam. And at that, I yield the floor for our Grand Sheik for chapter 45, Islam.
Islamism. I just want to say gratitude to you, brother chairman. First and foremost, I raise giving up the highest of praise to our creator, sustainer, our Father God Allah. I extend honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, extending honors also to the forerunner, brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, extending honors also to our current Supreme Grand Sheik, brother Kenu Bey, and I extend honors to all members of Temple 30 and extend honors to everything previously mentioned. And yes, as our brother said, we're going to be in chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. I had this image up here. You might be wondering why we have this image with the glasses sitting there. But I think after we go through this chapter, everybody will have a thorough understanding of why that has been presented, right? So with chapter 45, this is a profound, profound affirmation regarding us as far as the Moorish Americans, our ancient and divine heritage. And it was included in here by the prophet divinely, right? It divinely included in the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America because the prophet saw fit to correct the historical miseducation that we've all gone through. And not even just us, right? All the nations throughout the Americas and even in other nations, right? Across the Atlantic, across the Pacific, have been miseducated, right? So the prophet's doing it on one hand to correct historical miseducation, but also to unify our people and to unify us through what? Through divine knowledge. And also to give us an anchor for our Moorish identity within the entire Asiatic family. So we have a global Asiatic family. It's global. So once the vision has been cleared, now you can go to Brazil, you can go to Jamaica, all these other places, and you see your own people. You see your family, the Asiatic nations. And this is really important because there's a lot of confusion in the world, which is always the case. But even now, even while this great awakening is occurring, there's still people out there pushing narratives, trying to keep us confused, trying to keep us looking at each other as strangers, as enemies, right? We're not with the Africans. We're not with the, with the Jamaicans and all these other people, all these things that, probably sound crazy to you, but I'm telling you, it's out there. It's getting pushed. And you might even see it, online with the people pushing the FBA, Foundational Black Americans, whatever. They're pushing all this stuff. But spiritually, for us, this reconnects fallen humanity so that we can't even get tricked into those narratives. None of them work. They don't even phase us. You wouldn't even dare get caught up in any foolishness, right? So this reconnects fallen humanity to our divine origin, our celestial blueprint, right? And it reveals that, the nationality, the divine creed, it's essential to our salvation. And so with the glasses, the prophet Noble Drew Ali provided clarity to those who had been lost, through forced misnomers, right? We've been misnomered Black, Negro, colored, right? So these not even names, but these marks, right? As it says in our divine constitution, we had been marked with these names. So these marks were put on us, right? They were forced on us. And now we're correcting things. So the prophet provides that clarity to us. And it was lost through colonization, through psychological programming, psychological bondage. Because once we buy in to these narratives that were put there to disconnect us to humanity, once we're looking at the world through this new lens, right, we are psychologically under bondage. We have limits on what we can do. So this chapter 45, it's a corrective lens and it's a compass, right? It reframes the spiritual, the historical, and the national consciousness of Moorish American. And this is why, I always tell Moors this when we meet Moors who, for whatever reason, they not trying to come into the temple, not trying to give them the side eye. I think you full of it, not trying to do any of that stuff. But when they got all 100 reasons for why they're not coming to assist, at the end of the day, it's like, look, nothing you try to do without cleaning yourself up and following these divine instructions, nothing you do will work. It's not going to work. The prophet provided clarity, right? He gave us the corrective lens so that now, once we put this on as Moorish American Muslims, now we can see everything straight. Right before, without this, you don't even realize you're looking at the world and everything's blurry. Nothing is clear. Nothing really makes sense. We have to have this just so that we can see things clearly and move correctly now. Now we can move as a unit. Now you can move individually as a family. Now we can, no matter what, whether we're by ourselves or working together, we can succeed at a high level. We don't have these limitations on us, right? So it can't be left out. The Islam, the submitting to the will of Allah, none of that can be left out because all of those things are for your earthly and divine salvation. That's why the prophet made sure that chapter 45, okay, we're going to put these chapters at the end. And before that, we're going to work on building you up mentally and spiritually. We're going to let you know that there's a higher self and then that there's a lower self, which is all carnal mind. And we're going to show you how to subdue that lower self to make it a servant, right? We're going to show you how to operate from your highest capability. And then we're going to clear up who you are. We're going to make that clear. So that now when you put these lenses on, now you can see the world. Now you can stand up straight. There's nobody that can trick you, that can fool you. None of that stuff will work, right? They can come out with candy flavored blunt wrappers and they can be putting poison in it. Ain't gonna work. We not messing with that stuff. We don't care, right? We standing up straight. We're not addicted to these things. Whereas before we might have been addicted to that, right? I remember as a child, they had the St. Ides, right? The liquor. And the liquor had all the fruit flavors and fruit colors, and it was all bright, red and orange and purple and all these different bright colors. And as a child, I'm looking like, oh yeah, I want some of that St. Ides. Like they were programming me as a child, to want to drink liquor. But as a Moorish American Muslim, right, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on the adults, and it definitely doesn't work on the children because they're growing up as Muslims, right? And they're able to see the world clearly. Like, without this, I'm looking at that stuff like, man, I want to, it's like they training me to be an alcoholic, right? And they really were, because how many of y'all ever had, especially people that are just like over 30, 40, you remember the candy cigarettes? We had a little candy cigarettes, you chew on it, it turns to gum, right? We even figured out ways to puff on it to make the little powdered sugar look like smoke. They were training us to be addicts, to be addicted to cigarettes, right? Little children. But none of that stuff works when we have the prophet, okay? And so this is why it's so important. I just wanted to put that together just to make sure we hidden, the true message. We all understand, like, this is what gives us that earthly and divine salvation. None of those tricks work on us anymore. They actually worked on us. They worked on me. They worked on a lot of us, but they don't work anymore, right? Now you can listen to the savage rap and stuff. I still like some of that stuff. I listen to Mobb Deep, but guess what? Hearing all of that talk about murdering and how many ways you're going to kill somebody and all that stuff, it sounds like foolishness. It should have always sounded like that. But, the lower self is strong, and I didn't know any better. And many of us didn't. So now we see things differently, as we should. The prophet came to set us right so that we can stand upright, right? And this is also why other people from other communities can listen to that music. Maybe somebody who's Indian is in Hindu, from Pakistan or somewhere like that. They can be all into hip hop. They can love the music. They can listen to that ignorant stuff, and they don't go to jail. They don't go to prison. They don't get caught up in that life, right? It's just entertainment for them, right? So this is, the prophet standing us up right. And so let's go ahead and go into this chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations, verse 1. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Koran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. So this verse, right, echoing chapter 3, where no man lives unto himself. For every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. The prophet is calling for self-redemption, but through the knowledge of the higher self. But remember that higher self is our divine nature. So through this knowledge of the higher self, our divine nature, right, and knowledge of the lower self, the carnal nature, because you can't just learn one side. He's giving us the whole picture, right? Like if we want to just feed people's ego, we're going to come in, oh yeah, you God, right? You don't have to change nothing, right? Get on out there and twerk in front of these little children. Show them, this ignorant stuff. This is what you need to do, right? Just keep it ignorant. You don't have to change. No, we're learning about our true nature. We learn about the carnal nature and the divine nature. And the prophet is showing us that regardless of what anyone tells you, this mirrors the teachings of the Quran. When you go into Surah 91, chapter 91, verses 7 through 10 in the Holy Koran of Mecca, it actually speaks about the soul's purification and the corruption, the work that must be done. So even if people don't understand that this is the alignment, this is the uniting of the Holy Koran of Mecca. So socially, right, or sociologically, we have been conditioned to hate ourselves. We've been conditioned to hate ourselves and to hate one another. And that's coming through colonial, racial and systematic trauma. We've gone through so much just in this country here in North America, United States, right? Lynchings, all types of insane conditions that I don't even think other people could survive. We've been through all that. So now we have to learn to love instead of hate. That's actually revolutionary. That's actually more revolutionary than what anyone's speaking about. So this is an act of healing. And the prophet ties in our awakening. He ties that directly into Islamic instruction. That's the uniting force of the Holy Koran of Mecca. As we begin to come in and do this, master this, we are unstoppable. There's nothing that can stop us, right? So if we don't hate ourselves, we don't hate each other, you can't get a Moorish American to turn on another Moorish American to sell us out for nothing, for crumbs, because that's what they do. They throw scraps and crumbs at these people to get them to do stuff, because they need somebody that looks like you to turn on your own people, right? But as we come in and master this, it cannot be done. And even for those who are weaker, they feel the pressure that they can't get away with turning on their own people. They're like, these Moors will hate me. I won't be able to play this off. I can't be a leader. I can't be, speaking for Moorish Americans, and it's obvious that I'm a sellout. They won't go for this, right? And so it just comes through us actually coming in and learning to love instead of hate. We change the whole world. So that this is why the prophet did things in the order that he did it. The work on ourselves, learning of the higher self. And remember, when we say the higher self, that corresponds to the Christ mind, raising up that Christ energy within, because we don't look at Christ or even the prophet Noble Drew Ali or the prophet Muhammad or prophet Abraham or any of these other people is like, oh, we need to worship them. That's a representative of God. No, we understand that they set an example, right? They rose the Christ energy within them. And this is something that we all must do, right? It's an energy. It's a mind state. So this is the higher self. And it's something that we're all capable of tapping into, and that we're all capable of living from, of working from, of operating from. And as we begin to experience more what that means, we begin to change everything. Because when we're operating from the higher self, we're no longer in this world that we're in right now, where almost everything that's being created has a downside. Everything that's being created causes pollution, causes excess garbage, causes, poisons to be put into the sea and put into the air, right? But that's because people are working from the lower self. What is the lower self doing? It's traveling the earth to and fro, seeking whom it may devour. So that means as we begin to create more and more, we create and stuff. We don't need all this plastic. We don't need all this cardboard and all this other stuff. We can find better, more efficient, more natural ways to do things, right? We find ways to do things that people aren't, getting cancer and all this excess, all this craziness that now we got to give you pharmaceuticals for, right? We don't have to operate like that. That's people operating from the lower self, and that's the mortal mind, and it's bound to illusion, right? And it's just sense consciousness. It's just seeking what it can experience, right? It's limited. So we have to first recognize this duality, because that's essential to transformation. You can't rise up if you don't even know what's really going on. So just, thinking on that, meditating on that first verse, remember that, on a daily basis, reflect on where our thoughts are coming from. Now, I know this is said in almost every meeting, but it's for a reason. We don't want to leave that out. Every day, we want to reflect on where our thoughts are arising from. Is this coming from the higher self or from the lower? We need to be aware of that, because it's not like anybody else is going to tell you, right? We need to know. And as we are becoming aware of that, conscious on that, now we can make sure that we're not acting on the lower self thoughts, right? Because when we act on the lower self thoughts, we bring situations into our life that we don't really want, that are difficult, right? So we want to be able to do that. And we want to practice forgiveness and empathy, right, in all of our interactions, okay? And one of the ways that we can program ourselves or motivate ourselves is to start the day off with the affirmation, just, telling yourself what to do. Because now, as Moorish American Muslims, it's time to act as an authority. Remember, we speak about the Holy Koran of Mecca. Allah gives man the station as his caliphate, his earthly representative on earth, right? So this is true. So we have an authority. So every day start off with the affirmation that you're choosing love over ego-driven reaction, or that you're choosing the higher self over the lower self, right? You have to tell yourself what to do. You also have to tell the lower self to stay in its place. And that's just the practical, practical things that we can do, because we don't want this to just be talk for any of us, right? We want to put this into action, in our work, in our relationships, as we interact in the community, just on a daily basis. Islam Moors, moving forward to verse 2. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. This just blows everything out the water, because ain't nobody trying to say the so-called African Americans are the founders of the holy city of Mecca. You know that. Like, there's so many people going to come out like this blasphemy. Who do you think you are, right? But no, the prophet said the thing straight. He said the key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. So that's why the world's got so many crazy, messed up things going on. The key to civilization is in our hands. So if we're not taking the authority and being the best versions of ourselves and now acting as the authorities and actually carrying things out, if we're not in control, that's why it's messed up, right? It ain't on them. It's on us. Matter of fact, the other people who are in control or who appear to be in control, they're just acting in our place. Is they're like, look, those Moors, they're not even Moors anymore. They gave it up. They don't even care. They gave up the keys, right? They doing something else now. They doing what we tell them to do. They took on our religion, our names, everything, right? So the divine custodianship of the sacred wisdom and civilization, all of that, these are the keys, and it's in our hands, right? So that key, right? That's divine law. That's the ancient mystery teachings. That's, divine wisdom. That's cosmic science. That was all first revealed through Asiatics. So if we don't like the way things are, we got to get ourselves straight, because it's in our hands. There are other people who act like they want to change the world for the greater, and that's great. They need to assist us. They need to help us get our stuff together, because ain't nobody else going to be able to set things straight except for us, right? And so that's repositioning our people. It repositions the so-called black people, the indigenous people, right, as the creators of civilization. We're not just footnotes. We weren't just slaves, We're the creators. So that means, yeah, okay, now I understand. Yeah, that does make sense. The civilization is kind of messed up and things are out of control. It's because they not in control. They're not even in control of themselves. So the prophet rewrites that whole narrative with the truth. Just with the truth. Like, you guys created civilization. So civilization is going to follow behind you. And that's how come even when our people not even knowing who they are, right? They black, they African American, they whatever they calling themselves, niggers, whatever they're calling themselves, right? They don't know nothing. People still emulate them all over the world, right? It's because they are the creators of civilization. And so, and then this actually aligns with, archaeological records, the esoteric records, everything, when you actually go back and look. But this is why everything's out of order. All right. And so, our lineage actually ties us back into this legacy. So we have to now start to walk upright. We know that our bloodline is divine. We know that it's royal. We also know our role in founding civilization. So if you carry the key to civilization in your hands right now, today, there's certain things that you can't do. You can't do what everybody else does. Y'all remember that video I was playing of the dude, the Jew who's like talking about how special they are and the great burden that they carry, right? That's how we supposed to feel. We supposed to have that same zeal. That's how we supposed to feel about us, our communities. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do what they could do. We have a higher purpose. We have more responsibility on our shoulders because of who we are. We're all supposed to feel like that, you know, and act like that and carry things out. And, you know, once we're doing that, nothing can stop us. All right. So we can't even complain about anything. The prophet removes all of the excuses, everything. Going to verse 3. The Egyptians, who were the Hamathites and are a direct descendant of Misraim, the Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. So the prophet is explaining in here this vast spiritual family of the Asiatic nations. You know, the past from Kemet to Arabia, the Far East, right? The bloodline, the wisdom is all connected. This also removes like the separateness. This shows that we actually are the majority of people in the world, right? We're all over the place. So it's challenging all these borders, all these constructs, right? The different races and all this stuff. It removes all of that. We know that these are all man-made and that they're actually pretty new. They're relatively new. These were all created for the most part during European colonization, dividing up the world and creating these borders and stuff. So there's actually, in reality, this is what we're moving towards, and what we will eventually be moving towards as we ascend and start to take our rightful place, right, in the human family. There's going to be, you know, these false borders, all of this stuff will start to come down, right? There's actually a unified cultural, spiritual heritage across Asia and Africa, right? There's things that unify us that we all have in common, and even bloodline, blood ties, right? This, you know, you can look in the Quran of Mecca, verse 13 in Surah 49 or 49:13. It says, "O mankind, we created you from a single pair and made you into nations and tribes that ye may know each other," right? So even with all this diversity, even with all these different ethnicities, if you want to say, it's still, there's a call for unity, right? And that this diversity is divine. We're not all supposed to be the same, you know, wearing the same suspenders and ties or whatever. You know, the diversity is divine. This was created so that we may better know each other, right? So we embrace the unity, and especially with all the Asiatic people. And we reject division, especially based on these modern ethnic labels, because we can look back and see, oh yeah, they were the Hamathites, you know, those the Japanese, China. Oh yeah, that's the seed of Hagar. We you know, can see the ancient ties that we have, right? So we actually seek, you know, interfaith, you know, even interethnic alliances, right, in the spirit of divine family. And they have those interfaith organizations all over the place. Like, we're not going in there trying to prove nothing, trying to, you know, say what you're doing is wrong. No, that is foolish, right? As a Moorish American Muslim, we're not coming in attacking anything. Matter of fact, from our point of view, they're all Muslims. We are all Muslims. If you recognize a higher power and you submit to that higher power, that means we're all Muslims. Am I going to try to say, oh, you're a Muslim, you practice Islam? No, it's just, you know, for you to know from your point of view. You see the commonality. That means you're not coming in being a jerk, trying to force your way on others. This is what works best for them. And we see that, we respect it, we honor that. And we also honor our shared ancestors, right? So now we can work together, you know, through trade. We can do all of this work with each other, and we can see the bonds of unity, right? And so that, you know, that connection, even between the Egyptians, the Arabs, Japanese and Chinese, right? This shapes our view of unity, you know, with several Asiatics. And so, you know, we're not talking bad about any of these people, you know? We're not looking down on others, man. That's wrong. That's not what the prophet brought. That's backwards. That prevents us having these bonds, these ties. We can trade, we can do things and work together. We're stronger working together. Now, of course, we need to build up our community first, but once we build our community up and we have the confidence and belief in ourselves, now we can work with others, right? Because we can't work with others if we some slaves and we don't know nothing about ourselves and we don't love ourselves. But when we love each other, we love ourselves, we are confident in who we are. Now we can work with all of these people, right? Going to verse 4, the Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. Look at that. Canaanite, Hittite, and Moabite. Now the Canaanite and the Moabite will be who we are as well. And that's why you have so many Indians that look like us. Just might have a different hair texture, but everything else is the same. And even some of us have that hair texture. So for some, you can't even say that, right? So it's like, that's why so many of them look like us. So we connected. You're not looking at them like, oh, they strangers. Nah, we see the ancient ties, the divine origin. Okay? So, the prophet is identifying even these distant branches of the family tree that live all the way over there. Now, it goes back far, right? Because if you look at Indian history, they, counting their history going back by the tens of thousands of years, right? When you read like their spiritual books and stuff like the Bhagavad Gita and all this stuff, they going back tens of thousands of years. Guess what? We got that too. We're connected, right? So spiritually and physically, genetically, we're connected. And that whole way of looking at things, that distorts everything that we're given through Western civilization. It just limits us to this one place. Oh, you from Western Africa somewhere. They don't tell us where in West Africa. Just give us a blanket view of things so that we can't be connected to anyone, right? But it's like, no, okay, so we have common bonds. The ancient people of Canaan, right? They were dark-skinned people. They were civilized, wisdom-bearing people. They had a divine origin, right? So that reconnects all of us, all right? And and metaphysically too, also understanding Canaan, while it was a place in the Levant, like this area in the Middle East, it also represents the promised land, right? The promised land within, though, and that means attaining dominion over the subconscious, right? Attaining dominion over your own mind, and that allows us to to fulfill the will or the reason why we were put here, to be earthly representatives of Allah. So and if you want to, you could even study Canaanite and Hindu symbolism, right? And you can see the connections in there. All right, so moving on to verse 5, the Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America. Get into us. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans of North America. Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America. Okay? And so you got a call right here to recognize the so-called indigenous people of the Americas, right? And they're not outside the Asiatic fold. They're part of the divine family. All right. The soul contract that they have is tied to Moorish prophecy. So the prophet is relinking all of this together. He just throws it all in together. Asiatic nation, North, South, and Central America. And he mentions a few, but it's like, Jamaicans are included in there. Just look, the majority of Jamaicans are dark-skinned people of what they would say African descent. The vast majority. It's like, the Bahamas, there's so many places that are included in there because they're part of North, South, and Central America. So really, we're the majority. We are the majority. And so the prophet is affirming this, right? And he's revealing our true identity. We're the copper-colored nations, even though we wouldn't, call ourselves a color. We know that's one of the ways the Europeans describe these people. So, the Mexicans, the Incans, the Mayans, Tainos, right? All of these people are Asiatics. But all of these people, just as we were in North America, all of these people were destroyed by European reclassification. Whatever way of practicing, um, spirituality they had, they all took on some form of Christianity. Many of these people became Catholics. Matter of fact, if you remove all the Asiatics practicing Catholicism, there won't be any Catholics in the world. That's like the majority of the Catholics in the world look like us. So we took on, their names, their systems, and their labels. Latino, right? Black, Indian, all of that stuff. These are all European constructs. So the prophet is destroying all of that and reaffirming our true identity. And this is powerful. This is important. When you look in the Quran of Mecca, Surah 2, verse 213, it's speaking about the oneness of humanity before division, because division corrupted understanding. Right? So the prophet is fulfilling the Quran, right? Those marks that were put upon us, right? So we're replacing all that divisive language. Even though sometimes, man, just to keep it real, sometimes you may just have to say black or African American or Latino or Indian to speak to somebody, because they don't know what Asiatic means. They don't know what you're talking about, right? But we, as we communicate with each other and as we grow in prominence, we will affect the whole world. We're replacing all that divisive language, right? We're using conscious terms because we know who we are. Asiatic, more, right? We're changing all of that. And then we're reclaiming and we're honoring the cultural ties we have between North, South, and Central America, right? And the people that are here. This is our land. So we're recognizing our shared identity with Asiatics across the Americas. And this allows us, on one hand, of course, it's great. We know who we are. But, in the future, we can work together. And just saying this, like, just listen, Morris, because everything that we're doing here, within the temple, not speaking on all of it, but like Morris, I'm communicating with people that's in the Bahamas that are, trying to start a temple there. We got Morris in Trinidad doing the same thing there, for real. And then like in Jamaica as well. And the Jamaicans that are here, Jamaican Americans, communicating with them, they, have the temples. They even, the Maroon Society in Jamaica, where they literally have, been going back and forth with the Jamaican government. They're now recognized, as a real people, as a real tribal nation. And they have status, they're protected status, and they're, moving. They got land. They're moving to get more, things for their people secured. Like, this is for real. And you won't hear this on CNN. Nobody's even talking about it, but it's literally like happening right now. And they're wearing a fez and turban and everything. They know that they're Moors. And I'm just saying that as an example, like, this stuff is really happening. And, these bonds and ties that we have are real, right? So anybody trying to push any narrative, we not connected to those people, or any discussions of division or anything like that, man, we shouldn't even be hearing that mess, right? We reclaim and we honor these cultural ties, right? And so, of course, here in the Americas, but even across the seas, even with people from these other lands, we don't have those issues. Islam, I see, Chairman, brother, I yield the floor to you.
Islam, and again, I rise to give the highest praise to Father God Allah, honest to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, honest to all Moors on the call. I just wanted to camelback on that. Even out here in Florida, we are multicultural, or what you would want to call it, being as our people. But even as our people, they do know. And I'm gonna put that out on our messenger board, and when I get back, I'm gonna put that out there on the card that shows that it's Jamaicans, like what Grand Sheik was saying, the Maroons, from young and old, and even like how, like, say, like our customs, like, our customs when we were teenagers as males, we wanted to be tough. Even me, I was, tough guy, whatever you want to call it, a GD guy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Hoover's coming out now. You notice that most old people that's my age, we don't really say nothing about it. A lot of Moors though in Chicago are, we all happy about it because the brother really didn't do nothing wrong, like Jeff Ford. Looking past all that, even when it comes to culture, we all have to unite because even Jamaicans say the same way. They looked at the gangster mentality as Rasta, but they also knew that they had the same uniting when we all look the same. But if we don't act accord or we don't show any love, what the prophet said, learn to love, said, hey, real talk. If you really see that we say that like 5 times every night, so 10 times pretty much a week. Think about it. Why? That's the uniting of our people. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam, brother. Yeah, gratitude for saying that. Definitely, something that needs to be stated every time, we come together, just to remind us so that we can't forget, right? We need to learn to love instead of hate. So that when you see that programming coming through from people who look like you, it doesn't work. It dies as soon as it comes to the door. It doesn't even get to, come inside. Like, we're not hearing any of that mess. We're not entertaining it, you know. Moving forward to verse 6. Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador in Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims, right? So mentioning more people, it's so many, different nations here. Remember, these are all European constructs, all of these fake borders and stuff. Well, I shouldn't say they're fake, but, all of these are created by Europeans when they were dividing up these lands. Like, hey, this is what we gonna rule over, right? It's not real. And so, yeah, our people are all throughout the Americas. And the prophet says all of these are Muslims, right? Because, spiritually, to be a Muslim here, as the prophet is using it, it means one who submits to the will of Allah. And that's regardless of modern religious names. It's a natural way of life. It's inscribed into their customs, their laws, and their connection to the earth. So it doesn't matter what religion they're practicing, right? They're Muslims, and it doesn't matter. They've been forced to take on, Christianity or whatever, right? At first they were forced to baptize and convert during colonization. Why? Because they were literally, as we had that one book from Peter Tompkins, uh, about the Mexican pyramids, and in that book he has this picture. It's like a wood carving. Now, I'm wondering if I could pull that up. In that book, he has like a picture of this wood carving, right, where it shows these heads on spikes, and in there he's saying, okay, this is in Mexico, like in the early 1500s, and they were killing these people because they wouldn't convert, and they said they were killing these Negroes or these Moors in Mexico to make an example out of them because they're doing the Spanish Inquisition. They're making all the Moors convert, and they was even doing that over here, right, to the Moors over here. Okay, so these people, they were forced to, to baptize and take on a Christian name and take on that religion. They were forced to convert, right? But the root culture of all of these nations still remains Islamic in form, right? Whether it's the ritual, the washing, the prayer postures, the lunar calendars, whatever. They just integrated it into how they practice, Christianity, right? So they're still Muslims. And our people too as well. Even though, people getting away from that. They even getting away from that and starting to get, more and more into the lower self, but they're still Muslims. All right. So we recognize that. All right. And moving forward too. Well, first off, just to say that when you explore the ancient spiritual traditions of the Americas, we see parallels, Islamic parallels through all the religions, right? So we're seeing beyond that religion label, and we find Islam in the action, in the heart, in the heart of everything. It doesn't matter. You can go all the way out to Hawaii. The indigenous Hawaiians, what they were actually practicing, they were Muslims, and they were practicing it as best for them where they're located, living on these islands, you know. So we just see the commonality in it. We don't look at all this stuff, and we don't go doing what the Europeans did, calling everybody savage, even though they just had gotten civilized by the Moors. Now they trying to flip it and call people savages, right? So, to be a Muslim by nature versus just by doctrine, we see it as a part of their nature, all of these Asiatics. So we reclaim that identity, even if they don't see it, even if you ain't going to go up to them telling them they're Muslim because they ain't trying to hear that. We still see them as Muslims. Moving on to verse 7, the Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca, beginning from Muhammad I, the founding of the uniting of Islam by the command of the great universal God Allah, right? And in there, spiritually, like Hagar, the mother, the noble mother of Ishmael, right? And she's honored there or here as the matriarch of Islam. And the prophet is affirming the lineage, right, of the spiritual and the physical protectors of Islam, right? And the Turkish custodianship of the Kaaba and the Ottoman Empire's unification efforts were part of divine orchestration, right? I mean, everything, physically was perfect, but it was part of a divine plan. So it's still a reminder that the protection of the faith is not political, it's spiritual. It's spiritual stewardship, right? And when you go to Genesis in the Bible, you go to Genesis 21, verse 18, it says, it speaks about the promise that God had to make Ishmael a great nation, right? So we honor Hagar not just as a mother, but as a spiritual archetype for resilience, right? And we also recognize the importance of divine duty in protecting Islam, not just in name, but in action, right? So we can spiritually take on the role of protectors of the Islamic creed today, as Moorish American Muslims, by following these divine instructions, by knowing these divine instructions, knowing them by heart, knowing how we're supposed to conduct ourselves from the higher self and actually doing it, right? So just going into the daily practices, the daily instructions we can take from this, we should practice affirmations, so that we are programming ourselves for the day or motivating ourselves, telling ourselves what to do with authority. We should speak with authority. Each and every one of us, like, you don't have to be some leader or have some title to speak with authority. Each and every one of us should be speaking with authority. So when, you first thing you get up, or maybe after praying and meditating, you're telling yourself what to do. You understand who you are. You know that you're Asiatic by divine origin. So you're telling yourself to walk with love, unity, and purpose. You're telling yourself this throughout the day. You're telling yourself this first thing in the morning so that you're walking like this, so that you're acting like this throughout the day. You're giving yourself instructions, right? And, just keeping in mind, understanding our Asiatic history, that it goes beyond these borders so that we're not getting caught up in whatever is trending, whatever, foolishness is being spread, whatever division is being spread. It doesn't affect us. All right. It doesn't even impact us. All right. And, we're not attacking people. We're not going at anyone. So we're keeping those bonds of affection there so that we can work together with people and trade because we have bonds. We are all Asiatics. All right. And as we wrap this up, this chapter is about reclaiming our divine lineage. And so spiritually, we have a genealogy, but also physically, we have genetic bonds that tie us together. And it's a sacred contract. So it doesn't just remind us who we are, but, whose we are, who we belong to, Allah. All of these people are Asiatics. We know that the Asiatics were the first people, the first to take on these physical bodies to be the strength of Allah made manifest. So this is reconnecting Moorish Americans with our true family tree, right? This stuff that's been stripped away, whether it's through slavery, whether it's through conquest, and also forced amnesia. Like this was taken from us. So now it's being returned. We're being reconnected. So we know we are Moabites, Canaanites, right? Now we know who the other Moabite, Canaanites, Hittites, right? the Egyptians, Arabs, the Hindus. We know who all of these people are. And we know that, it's not just something to say. This is historical and it's transformational. So the identities, these aren't just labels. These are portals of power because they reveal our divine purpose. They connect us back to our ancestral authority, right? And also our spiritual unity. So the prophet, he gathered all this together, and masterfully, right, put together the pieces of this puzzle, a global puzzle, right? Because, as we Asiatics, it shows that we are one family under Allah. And also, we not coming at it as some every knee must bow to Islam type of view. We see everyone as, they're already Muslims by nature, right? And that's how we can live as protectors of divine truth, right? Because also, you can't go trying to force your way on everybody, right? So this is more than just, telling you a little bit about yourself or some history, right? This confronts all the falsehoods that have been put out there, because all that stuff, it fragmented humanity, right? It separates, the divine order and the unity that we have, right? So this declaring that the Asiatic nations are of divine origin is not to exalt one group above others, right? This was important. This was a prophetic correction for all of humanity. This affects the entire world because it returns the world to a sacred truth. This has been hidden. This has been distorted or forgotten. So the truth is necessary regardless. It could be somebody listening to this. It could be from Scandinavia. It don't matter where you're from. This is the necessary truth because this has been erased. And so all these nations, we have a rightful place in history. That created a spiritual vacuum. These people are looking at the artifacts and the temples and stuff that our ancestors created, trying to say that some gray aliens did this, right? And it's like they thrown off. You can't actually figure out what's going on if you're moving from falsehood. So we have all these systems, global systems. They're built on exploitation. They're built on division, materialism, right? All of that stuff is falsehood. So all of this stuff had to be undone. And that's why the prophet had to write this chapter, right? Because, on one hand, you had colonial miseducation, right? And it's systematic. So this cut us off, but all the rest of these indigenous people, they're all cut off from the knowledge of their spiritual heritage. And that's what's missing, right? So we have all these systems, medicine, science, everything is cut off from the spirituality. It's all coming from strictly from the carnal mindset. Let's figure this out. Let's see if we can break this down. Let's look at the DNA. And then they can't even look at the DNA because they're still saying we only have 2 strands of DNA and the other DNA is junk DNA because they can't access it, right? So it's like, okay, you coming from a limited perspective because you're cutting off the spirituality. You can't even understand the rest of the material world, right? So we have to reconnect this, right? So you got all these countless souls just wandering around out here, in spiritual amnesia, don't know who they are. You have disunity globally, but all of this stuff is changing. The prophet's right on time. We're right on time. And we need to bring this message to the world eventually, but the focus right now is on getting ourselves in order, in divine order. All right. And the prophet, he revealed or restored those ancient names with the Moabite, Canaanite, and Hittite, not just to make people feel good, right, but to call us back to remembrance because he knows that, hey, this is how we light up that DNA they call junk DNA within you. You got to call you by your real name, right? He restored that link, right? He relinked the Holy Koran of Mecca and the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple of America to reconnect the East and West under one divine flag, right? This is also why we don't change up the flag that the prophet brought. You might see some other Moors trying to do that because they don't have confidence in the prophet. And if you don't have confidence in the prophet, you're supposed to have dignity and turn your turban and fez back in, right? And return to the state where the prophet found you. But the prophet, he restored those ancient names. He restored that link, right? He unified the Holy Koran of Mecca. And he called on us to recognize Islam is not foreign to us. We didn't have to go and take a shahada in a foreign language. Even though when I took a shahada in the mosque, I said it in English, but just saying we don't have to learn a foreign language and do all this extra stuff, right? Because this is ours. Just like you wouldn't go to the indigenous people of Hawaii and try to tell them, they practice in Ho'oponopono. Oh, that's not it. This you got to do this. You got to learn Arabic. No, that would be insane. That makes no sense. And that was already done to all of us, with the European spreading their version of Christianity. So we don't need to do that. This is a natural way of life for us. Submission to divine law for all people, right? Who choose to live upright, who choose to live in peace and truth. That's our natural way of life. And this is so important for us to live like this because with the way things have been distorted in the world, people, even our people, are getting out of their natural way of life. So this is a chapter for us, but also for the entire world, right? Because everybody, regardless of what they look like, has been affected by the lies and especially the stuff that create, racial superiority, making others feel inferior. All that stuff is falsehood. So we all live in a world that's been, codified, with these color lines and all of these things that are fake. They even trying to push the divine masculine and feminine against each other, right? So there's so much falsehood. We're coming, to walk and live in truth. That's the only way to heal and to actually change things. All right. And so, just wanted to share that because, when you actually look into the scriptures, I'm gonna leave with some scriptures from the Bible and the Quran. Going to Surah 2, verse 213 in the Holy Koran of Mecca, it says, mankind was of one religion before their deviation. Then Allah sent the prophets as bringers of good tidings and warners. And then also in the Bible, in Acts 17, verse 26, says, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, right? And so actually there's a divine order, which regardless of, what nations and where we're from in the world, there's still a divine order. And it's not something that's put on people by force. It's by truth. So as we see those who are operating from the lower self, they're trying to bring about a one world religion. You may have heard about that for years. They're actually, trying to do that, doing it by force. They're doing it by trickery and deception. They're all operating from the lower self. But this way that we're doing it, right? We're doing it through love. We're not trying to force you. We're not even trying to offend you. If you honor the Creator, you understand that we must, submit to the will of divine law, divine order. We must all submit to divine law. You're a Muslim. And we're not trying to force that on anyone. We ain't even trying to call anybody Muslim if it's going to offend them. We cool with it. And ultimately, that's the one system, right? So just sharing that, and as we proclaim this, that the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation must learn to love instead of hate. We're not just talking about race. We're talking about the condition of the human soul. We're calling on us all to remember our divine nature, to see the commonality that we have, right? To truly raise up. And so, yeah, this had to be done, and the prophet had to restore our ancient names, not just to make us feel good, to call on something greater within us, right? And this, love this chapter. It's meant for everyone, actually. And on that note, I yield the floor back to our chairman, Brother Kobe Islam Morris. Islam, brother. Brother Kobe, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you. Islam, I yield the floor.
Can you hear me, Grand Chief?
Islam. Islam. Can you hear me?
Islam, we can hear you.
Okay. Islam. Praise Allah. I just wanted to put in that the last four chapters, even if you look it up now, they've actually been putting in, I don't know who's been putting that in, but they're putting in good work about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali on Wikipedia and on and in Google. The last four chapters, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wrote himself. And everybody knows as a Moor, when you know the Holy Koran that the Prophet prepared, he said he divinely prepared it. So he added things and he prepared it for us. But those four, the last four that we're going through right now, those last four are the last four that he wrote personally. Islam, I just wanted to put that out there. And also, if anybody had any questions or any announcements before we go into the closing, Islam.
Yeah, Islam. I like to rise and give a lot of highest of praises and extend honors to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali and to all the Moors on the call. So, I have a question for number one, and I might have would you like possibly build my file? So, it's basically referring to that you basically has a few things that talks about uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. So I was trying to figure out exactly what that means because we have like a book, but I do know Quran means recitation. And so before I go further, I want to know exactly what that means, or give an example of how knowing our lower self, our higher self and lower self could be the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Because I know it might be like a little symbology in there. And with that, I give up the mic.
Islam, that is definitely a great question. And it's a connection. You know, it's Friday, it's a holy day. The Moabites was doing some research about the prophet, and even when you Wikipedia, and and it kind of answered that a little bit, because when you go on the Holy Quran of Mecca, the prophet was bringing back to you to what in North America we've been Islamic, and like say like stones that you can look at were engraved that said Muhammad, and you know, all praise of Muhammad. And so we know even in those days, way before they lied and said, "Oh, hey, we bring you up here on a ship," and even they told the truth on that one. They said, "Hey, only less than 2% came to North America." So we know where we stand. But that question, that's definitely a great question. But it's told, and now we know. So now we just gotta let it kind of digest in Islam.
Yeah, Islam. So I was kind of like referring on to the actual book, so I can basically get like a little bit of understanding. I can just exercise my five, what I think might be an exercisement of my five to help you better understand my question. So, like, okay, so it says like to know your higher self and lower self. To know your higher self, which is Allah. Allah is truth. And so what I took for that, because I know that I have been doing like a lot of research on the name Isa, because I said the name Isa is like different, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't translate like the rest of the other names, you know what I'm saying? Like the other names from Hebrew and you know what I'm saying, Hebrew and from Hebrew. And so and basically dealing with truth. I'm not trying to attack a religion, but so far as my research has brought me with the name Isa, the name Isa doesn't mean anything in Arabic. And what I got, so like when you translate the name Yeshua over into Arabic, it'd be almost like Yeshua, but it's spelled like Yud, Shin, Y, N. But when you spell Isa, it's spelled N, Ya, Sin, Aleph. And so it's completely different. And upon my research, what I found out is that there are some Shiite Muslims believe that a lot of the Quran was changed from the Prophet Muhammad, and that it was changed for political reasons, and also having something to do with taking out the name Ali or something like that. And so I do know that we're in this age what we call the age of Aquarius. And so it's easier to research things and go back and forth, but sometimes things get a little tricky. So it's just like when I read Sheik said something about when a person changes a name that has something to hide. And so I've been stuck with that because I noticed that his name was only just reduced down to like 3 letters in Arabic. And so to me, that's kind of disrespecting the prophet. And so that's why I was saying, like, saying, as far as like the uniting of the Quran and Mecca, maybe some of the lies will get taken out of the Holy Quran and Mecca, because certain things don't translate over correctly. And from what the Shiites did too. So I'm still doing research on that. And with that, I give up the mic.
Islam. Some of the there is a translation for Isha, for in Arabic where it means gift or salvation from God. So that's a a possible translation for it.
Yeah, Islam. Yeah, so I looked up the word salvation in Arabic. It was so is it had like another name. So I've been doing like a lot of deep research. But when I finish it, I'll show it to you all the research that I came up with too as well. And with that, I get with the mic. And so I was basically trying to figure out like the actual, because he said something that we had to sit on. I was trying to figure out what our prophet was meaning by like uniting of the Holy Quran and Mecca. Like how does that what exactly does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Because they're using like a recitation, unite. I don't know if it means like uniting our speech together, because I know Quran means, says recitation of speech. And so I don't know if it means that. I was just trying to figure out exactly what that means. And I might have to sit and, study it a little bit more.
Islam. That's uh uh brother Grand Sheik. Did you have anything to enlighten on that? I understand. I definitely understand what brother talking about in Islam, and I don't even want to be like to say like, oh, okay, talk about it later. But that would be something that like even if opened up would be a like you that's definitely a deep and it would take longer than the time that we have Islam.
Islam. So yeah, a short way of explaining that from my perspective. All right, the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. When you look at unite, that's um, some of the definitions for is to put together or join two or more things, um, to make a agree or be uniform, to cause to adhere, right? As to unite bricks or stone by cement. So for the most part, uniting is to bring something together, to make it make sense, right? So with the uniting of the Quran of Mecca, for us, from our perspective, to know their higher and lower self, to learn to love instead of hate, and to know their higher and lower self, that's the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. So first off, this isn't something that we're like, hey, we're going to unite the Holy Quran of Mecca for the whole world, for everyone else. First off, it's about teaching and instructing us, Moorish Americans, and the ETC would first be these other Asiatic nations here in North, South, Central America. This is what we need. And as we get this together, maybe then it can spread, to other people, Asiatics, and then the other people in the world, even who aren't Asiatics. But the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca, at the end of the day, every prophet brought the same message. Now, it had differences because the people that they brought it to at that time needed something that catered to their needs. But at the end of the day, besides all that stuff, besides the Persians living in the desert and Prophet Muhammad having some things that was specific for them, the message was the same. He had the same message about the higher and lower self. And so the prophet, put that in here and created this for us. And, people can look and say, well, this Quran, it's not a lot of pages. It's just a booklet. Well, that's because that's what we needed. We don't need 1,000 pages or 2,000 pages that we're not going to read, if we're not going to be able to study and master. We got a booklet so that we can actually put in the work and master this and put these principles into action in our life, so that we can actually, begin to exert, the mastery of the higher over the lower self. And that's the uniting of the Quran of Mecca, because it's the Holy Quran of Mecca, because as we demonstrate this and live from this, the people who right now would look at us and be like, they're hypocrites, they're not real Muslims. It's because, the way that we're living, it's not good enough, and that's the truth. And not to go too much into it, but yeah, there's Muslims who are Arabs, who from Indonesia, from Senegal, all types of places who could put us to shame, because it's like if they like trying to be clean, they're not trying to be addicted to drugs, they're not trying to have a bunch of children out of wedlock. They could say, oh, you're not a real Muslim. But as we begin to follow these divine instructions and live as Muslims, now, people won't be able to say those things. As our communities are starting to be in order, right? As we start to get things under control because we have our lower self under control, then maybe we can actually teach people about the higher and lower self without even running our mouths, just through how we act. Some people will begin studying us, just how they study us and copy the dances and all that stuff that we do. Then they'll begin to pay attention, and they won't see this is a joke. They won't be able to say the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is not a real prophet, that this is shirk. They won't be able to say any of that stuff. And then maybe we can actually teach. Then we can show them how in the Holy Quran of Mecca, it says Allah sends a prophet to every nation. And why does it say that over and over and over and over again? But you go tell me this one time in here where it's saying that he's the seal of the prophets, and that means that there's no more prophets. Now we'll be able to tell them that, and they'll listen. So yeah, he's saying it like this, to know the higher and lower self, to demonstrate this, to live this life. That's the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. People distorted and took that message out of there. If the Prophet Muhammad was actually encouraging people to follow his footsteps and do what he did, just like Jesus was teaching the people, right? That's the true message. Humans distorted that. Humans made it so that it's not even really as much about the Holy Quran of Mecca as it is about, okay, you got the Holy Quran, plus you have all of these hadiths, all of these sayings of the Prophet, all of these stories from the Prophet Muhammad's life. It's like, that's too much. You can't put all that weight on a person and expect them to actually be able to master this and use it in their life. It's too much. They even get it away from the Quran and making it about all these hadiths. That's too much. And so, yeah, we do this work. We master this booklet. We work on our higher and lower self. That will be the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca, because at the end of the day, that was the key central message in there. That's the key central message in the Bible. That's the key central message that Buddha brought. But people made it seem like, oh no, put him on a pedestal. Put him on a pedestal. We'll never be able to do what he did. You got to go through the blood of Christ and eat this cracker and drink this wine and all this stuff. What does that have to do with anything? Especially when Jesus said, you're all sons of the Most High. You're all gods. Why not go into understanding what that was talking about? So that's the true message. The higher and the lower self. That's what it's all about. Islam, I yield the floor back to our chairman.
Islam, Grand Sheik. Like we said tonight, we was gonna put this on fire. We gonna put some zeal on this. And one thing I'm gonna put on zeal on this too. I'm a camelback on all that. And it's in every one of us. Everybody. Even the people that's not even on call. Everybody. You look at as a Moorish American, and I can guarantee you, because brother Jay Carr is about to light it up too. I'm gonna give it to him in a minute. I just wanted to say something real briefly and Camelback. I see him. I see him. I see him in the chats. Look at as a Moor. Just contemplate diaphragm and also look at your creed. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Also, we don't got just 5. We got 9. Cause that's the rebirth. Once you master the 9, then you rebirth. Justice, mercy, love, and right. That's Islam. I'm gonna put us on that. We Temple 30. I'm gonna put y'all on the highest plane. What the prophet said, the apparatus. Remember, adapt, anybody need to understand the apparatus? Islam. And I'm gonna yield the floor. I wanna let my brother, I know my brother ready. Islam. Go ahead.
Islam, brothers, like to rise to my highest heights. All praises are due to Allah, Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali, our Grand Sheik, our three Grand Sheiks, all my brothers and sisters on the call. Quran was given to us as a faith in the God. That's it. That's what's following on Hadith. Hadith are basically the ways the person is following and the ways he's done. Everybody's falling away from the general purpose, which is the Quran itself. Our prophet gave us our own Quran. It may not be as big as the Quran of Mecca, but you know what? It is. It was given to us because it was needed for our time. Each prophet was given to each group of people at that specific time, speaking that language of that nation or that creed or that group of people. Because remember, at that one time, we all was one, and then we all split up and spoke different languages. So nobody can come to another person and still preach or give the message in that person's language because they didn't know how to speak said language. So Allah made it so that the prophet for every single nation, every group of people, so that his word will be known, so that you could come back into the fold. Now, as man being man and everybody living in the lower self, they added on to the things that Muhammad did. They added, the Christians don't follow the Christians, they follow Jesus because Jesus did not teach Christianity. That's a falsehood. And they all know that, yet they won't bind to that. Everything that Muhammad did, why do we have to follow everything that Muhammad did? The beard Muhammad wore. You paint the beard the same way Muhammad. You wear the clothes as Muhammad. You don't have to do that. If you want to follow that custom, that is fine. But every group of people have their own custom and ways. And they're getting more about the custom than the Holy Koran itself. Because if they stuck with the Quran, which gives you laws, just like the Bible gives you laws, just like the Torah gives you laws, nobody's trying to really follow those laws too much. If you follow those laws, you'll be right back in step. And basically, if you follow the basic guidelines, which is basically ethics and morals that we all were taught as kids, and the golden rule, that is the start. But nobody wants to do that. They rather go, well, hey, Muhammad did this. You're not a Muslim. You can't prove that I'm not a Muslim. For you to prove that I'm not a Muslim, you got to check yourself. And they're not ready to check themselves. They're scared of us. I travel over. They are scared of us. Because, you know, this is our time. And it's slowly coming up to our time. They're all scared of us. If you go to Egypt, I will show you. They're scared of us. My sister's over there right now. He said they're dark-skinned Egyptians and light-skinned Egyptians. They'd rather have the light-skinned Egyptians and show you that this is the way, and it's not the way. They're messing with the darker-skinned Muslims. They're the lighter-skinned Muslims. They hold them, and when they come into code of customs and stuff, they put them inside and put them in jail for a while, and so-called check their papers. They're scared. They know that this is our time. The Muslims know that this is our time. They know who they are. They know, and we know who we are. The problem is we gotta get more of us to know who we are and follow our customs and ways instead of really always dealing with the lower self and deal with the higher self. We let the higher self keep the lower self in check so we can do what we need to do. And this is a great measure that the Grand Sheik and the chairman put together. And always do Allah. And hope we can all get together and build our nation so we can show them. Because the only way we're going to get recognized is that we lead the way and we show them. It's now the time. We can't be doing all the little shirk stuff, all the little dumb stuff that everybody else is doing. Let them do that. Let them do that. If at that time they want to come amongst us, we bring them to the fold. But if they're not about what we're about to do, then they can't be amongst us because they're going to put you down. They're going to bring you down. It's a traitor in your mess. And every time you bring a traitor in your mess, something always goes awry. Disinformation and problems come. But thank you, Grand Chief, for allowing me to talk. And Chairman, I give it back to you. Islam.
Islam, Islamism, and I mean that's what we need. That vibration. We are all one. We are all spirit, men, women. We are all more and more biters. We need to raise to that level because that is who we are. Even when I read, even in the closing, I mean, it kind of says that that's the as a Moorish American, that's the title that you became to get to your highest heights, and we all gonna get there. Islam. I can remember the Sheikish, uh, Drew, the Sheikish. We all gonna get there, and we all gonna get there, and we all gonna be millionaires real soon. Islam. I yield the floor for any questions or any announcements before we go into the closing. Islam.
Islamism. First and foremost, I'd like to rise and give perfect praise to our Father God Allah, honors to his prophet Noble Drew Ali, honors to the forerunner prophet, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheik, our brother Emily Ill, honors to everybody Moorish, everything Moorish, our Supremes, Islam, honors to everybody on the call, honors to our flags, Islam, happy holy day, family. I just want to add to the build and exercise my 5 because we have to remember Christ is not a last name. Islam, Christ is a title. Islam, so that title Christ is for all of Allah's prophets, divine and holy and divine prophets and messengers. Islam, so with that, we have to understand that the Christ title is given or placed upon all of Allah's prophets and messengers. And our holy and divine prophet was a messenger, an angel of Allah who came here to tell us what we needed to know in this era of time. Islam, we need it. So Allah had to provide it. So, based upon the divine instructions, we don't have to persuade anybody. We know for ourselves that when we see these divine instructions, that it was for us because we needed to lift ourselves up because we were fallen humanity. And nobody on this planet can deny that humanity has fallen and need to be picked up. And this is the remedy for the Negro, Black, and color illness that is plaguing our communities all over the world. So this is something that we need as a people. We need for ourselves. And once we get it right, once we apply these lessons and live by them every day and remember them, and the oneness of Allah that's within us, then we can go out into the world and teach. But before we go out into the world, we have to get our house in order. The prophet said, take this and save yourselves. Get your household in order and then build the nation. Islam, I yield the floor. Islam, brother chairman, I yield the floor to you.
Islam Grand Sheik is, and again, I mean, we all have that power within, and that's what we all. Any officer or anybody or any adept or any sheik is to raise any member that is not an adept or a sheik to that level to where they can understand that as far as spirit man, as far as the plane that you're living on, as far as the different planes, as far as the astral test astral planes, as far as the astrology planes, as far as the stars that you living on as well and you stepping on every day. Islam. So I mean, this is a great measure, and all praise due to Allah that all members that are in here just keep with your lessons. If you don't feel or understand that you ain't getting there, reach out to anybody. Definitely, you can reach out to me and you can reach out to anybody because the thing is, it's about the growing, and we are growing, and it doesn't matter. We are in the age of Aquarius. It's that time. So we don't really want to get left behind because even in the age of Aquarius, there's no left behind. It's just you're gonna find out and everybody else already know. So you kind of want to know when everybody else know. Islam, that's the best way I can put it. With peace and love.
Islam.
So Islam Morals, without further ado, I would like to go into the closing. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam, I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nation of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay the divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nation of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right. The temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. I am glad, Islam, this is an instruction from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather, divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam and the divine instructions from the great Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Circle 7. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land, which thy Lord, thy God, Allah, have given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefather, ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the families of nations. We honor all true, we honor all true and divine prophets. The fallen sons of daughters of the Asiatic nations of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of the higher and the lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Koran of Mecca for the teaching and instructions for all Moorish Americans, etc. Very important. The Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Know yourself and your Father God Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. The uniting of Asia. Islam, Islam, Islamism. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If we are all able to, can we please rise and face the east for the closing prayer? Again, we do this in the cactus pose. 2 fingers to the right, 5 to the left, feet in a 90-degree angle, standing on our square. And you do not have to repeat after me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefather divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims. This meeting is now adjourned.
Islam
Peace and
gratitude.
love.
Before we leave, just wanted to share an announcement. So first, just wanted to remind everybody we will have a vendors booth at the Confest here in Columbus, Ohio. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 27th through the 29th. We'll have a booth there. If anyone wanted to reach out about vending at the booth, just send me a message on the side. And also we had another announcement too.
Islam family, with convention about 4.5 months out, we are going to start making a list of everyone who will be in attendance. And on that list, we will need to know if you're going to be in attendance, how many people are coming with you, how many days you will be in attendance. Some people will just come for the weekend, some people come for the whole week. So we do want to know how many days you'll be in attendance, as well as if you're booking individual hotel rooms or if you are interested in going in on an Airbnb. Islam, we did that a couple years, and that is very economical. So we will be putting that list out very soon. And so we just want to let everyone know that we are looking forward to attending convention this year. Islam.
Islam. And also, in the announcements as well in Orlando, is it the 9th through the 14th or the 9th through the 15th?
Islam, it's the 9th through the 14th. The 15th, we're heading out, so that day is not going to count. So yes, the 9th through the 14th will be in Orlando, Florida, and all is welcome to come and either visit or stay. Just let us know. Reach out, Islam.
In Islam, and as well, I will have a couple of cars exactly for the Turo if anybody needs those as well, and also the bookstore. So on, do we need to do it on the Saturday, or I can uh let people know before? The only days that he is not, but that's the days that you guys will be leaving, is on on a Sunday and Monday. So any days before then, I could let him know. He's very willing and anxious because he knows, as a person that's elder, that's 80 years old, he knows how the Moors, uh how we do things, and he's from Jamaica, and he knows how the Maroons, and he speaks very highly of us, and we're in the historical area in that bookstore
Gotta
area.
come on slowly. I'm finishing it now. Uh,
Islam. So I mean, we can discuss that later, but I mean that's coming up as well soon. So we can do it either during the weekday or on a Friday, or a Saturday. We could do it on a weekday as well. I just would like to know because we can get some flyers out, and I can let people know on social media about nationality and Moorish Americans, and we can give out cards as well. Islam.
Islam, brother. If Friday or Saturday, whichever works best for you and the brother, the owner of the bookstore. You know, we trust that you'll be able to make it work and make it possible. So whichever days you choose for the family to meet, that's the day we're gonna promote and make it work. Islam.
Islam. I would say Saturday because Friday, I was reaching out to the brother Wolf Bay, and he was saying that Zukatir's June 13th. He'll be in that area. I'm still reaching out to him because he can actually physically do it at the bookstore as well. And they said that they don't really have a physical location yet. So I'm still talking to him as well. So to me, if we can get him, we can get it all done on the same day.
Islam sounds good.
It'll work. So I will be reaching out to him and just seeing if we can do it. But as far as the bookstore, he has no problem. He just said, "Hey, as long as it's going to get done, we need this for our people in the area." And we're in Seminole County, and it's historically our area, so it's long.
Islam, praise Allah, gratitude.
Islam. So, without further ado, Morris, if there is any more announcements or anything else, this meeting is now adjourned. Islam, man, peace and love. Happy holy day. I do pray that everything is all well with all Moors on the call and on the planet. Islam.
Peace and love, Morris. Happy Holy Day.
Happy Holy Day. Islam.
Peace and love. Happy Holy Day.
Peace and love.